morning to everybody who's joining us today. Really looking forward to this session. As it says here on the screen, the session will be recorded and will be available afterwards, but only to Callisto members. There's your invitation to join the Callisto membership. These sessions are always interactive. We really want to hear your comments, your opinions, your views, your disagreements. And just to kick off, to help to navigate the chat, question down the bottom here. What do you think is a reasonable implementation time for a third-party tech provider? We'd be interested to know if you've had an implementation or you're in discussion with tech providers. What are you expecting your implementation time to be? So if you could put that in the chat, please. And really, that's it. We'll get cracking then. Noi, I'm going to hand over to you now. Take it away, and looking forward to a very exciting session today.
Okay, cool. Thanks. Good morning, everyone. For those who don't know me, I have a background of over 20 years of credit management in different industry, mainly for a big American company. So just so that you have a bit of background. So if you get started in a minute, I'm a project manager for my DSO manager. So let's talk and dive in. What's important for us in credit management is the real world and what we see on a day-to-day. Manual, silo, slow sometimes, don't always have the visibility into our customer risk, because at the end of the day, it's not just about collecting cash, it's about managing the risk for the company we work for and for any companies. I think what's the most important, what I've seen throughout the years, is the difficulty to have the collaboration between all the support department. That can be sales, that can be customer services. Why? Because we don't give them a vision where they can see what we see and just follow it throughout and have a real visibility and traceability. So, and now we come to automation, technology integration, and transition to new solution. And what do we do about that? Because obviously credit management, about 20 odd years ago when I first started, even 10 years ago, and now things are moving, things are changing due to new technology. And what do we do with that as well, which is, and how that can help any credit managers and their team and company to actually get the cash in, manage their risk, and helping all the departments that are involved within a company. So usually what tends to happen is companies use complex and multiple ERP. I've been through companies where we had 3 versions of SAP, we had AS400, depending on which production plan I was working for. So it made life complicated because you open up and you had 4 ERP to open up, and you have to try and navigate throughout, because depending on the ERP, you don't always have the same screen and the same data. Speed of integration for us, it means we can actually handle multiple ERP. It's a SaaS technology, and the data upload in real time, meaning that from the moment you get the data imported, it will be up-to-date data so that yourself and the team can work. And how does my DSO manager fit into the existing ecosystem? Basically, it responds to the needs of any credit manager. It was made and built by a former credit manager for credit manager. And what's the best than knowing that the solution was built by a credit manager who understands where we're all coming from, our difficulties and what we do and how we do it, and what visibility we need, especially in terms of our team, in terms of our customer, in terms of our support team, and our higher management. A day-to-day credit manager using MyDSO. Basically, it's automation to start with. Why? Because we're going to build different cash collection scenario that we can decide to automate it or not, how we do it, how big is your obviously portfolio. It helps to add value to what you team and yourself do. We tend to sometimes do quantity and don't always have the time to actually do quality, and we tend to feel quite bad about it. We feel like we're firemen just trying to get everything done, trying to get the cash in. And MyDSO will help you to automate for some customers and dive into more adding value through different cash collection scenario, your risk agenda, you open that up, you know what your risk is. You can connect to information service provider so they can help you in real time. So you know when you might know a customer is actually getting a lower rating, so that can help you to say, okay, what am I going to do about it? So having all the technology help a lot. What you'll find as well with MyDSO is the dispute handling. Usually dispute is across the company. You can have tender and pricing, you can have customer services, you can have quality. All those support team will help handling the dispute. But how do you give them the visibility? MyDSO have a whole dispute handling. You record it, you can send it to quality services, you can give it to customer services, any services, they can have it. They will have a look at their agenda. They know what they need to do. They have real visibility on time, how much is actually spent on dispute in terms of quantity of invoices, in terms of numbers, which means for you reporting, it'll be fantastic because you know exactly where your money is sleeping and what we need to do about it. And when I said earlier about collaboration, that helps giving visibility to all the other support team and obviously have that collaboration because you give the others that visibility, which helps them to be able to know where they need to actually take action, how much that represent. They can have a resolution time in terms of dispute, which we tend not to be able to do. Why? Because we don't have the tools. We set objective to our teams, but if we can't quantify it, it's complicated to be able to appraise your team and any team if you don't have the numbers. Interactive portal, which is absolutely fantastic for the customers because we have interactive email. We basically can be interactive with our customers. We send them an email, they can click on that, they have the statement of their account, they can send us some comments. We receive the comments, we can actually qualify the invoices, we can say, okay, it's a dispute, we have promise of payment, and our customers and our end customers are absolutely adore that feature because they don't just send an email, you have to put that in, they interact with us. And as I say before, the team collaboration, not only with all the services within the company, but with our customers and our end customers as well. So that is just absolutely fantastic in that respect. As I said, the dispute. It's always been a real subject for any companies. How much dispute do we have? What do we do about it? What type of dispute we have? How can we do a accurate reporting? Because obviously dispute, and I've been through that in my previous company, where in the UK they have millions in terms of dispute, and they were handling through a CRM called Salesforce that an awful lot of people of you know. And from the moment they transfer it into MyDSO, they've managed to see how big the issue was, get all the different departments sat around the table and say, okay, we cannot have that level of dispute. What do we do? How can we reduce it? And by being able to follow through your dispute, you can realize that some dispute can be avoided because it can be just training people again. Why? Because they're new and we're missing some order numbers for the customer because they need that. And without that, they cannot actually know which invoice is related to their orders internally. So the dispute management is team-based, it's collaborative, and it helps higher management, the credit team, and the auto support team to see what's happening and how everything evolved. And we can see from the moment you had maybe 30 days time of resolution, you can reduce it. Why? Because you have a real visibility. And then you can take action and see how those actions have actually succeeded or not. So,
sorry, Noy, before we go on, I
Yeah.
think we have a poll question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So I'm going to launch the poll now, and everybody who's on the call is invited to participate. Is it visible?
No, I can't see the.
I'm seeing it.
Sorry?
The question is which area would most improve your day-to-day performance?
Okay.
They haven't replied yet.
Last chance to put in your votes. Okay, thank you. Now I'm going to show the results of the poll.
Okay.
The winner is a centralized credit cockpit dashboard.
I fully agree. It's usually what we're missing as credit manager to have some kind of a global view of and have a dashboard. And when you actually goes into my DSO, that's the first screen you'll get, a dashboard of everything you need. That can be your aging balance, your dispute, your DSO, your overdues, your forecast, your sales, anything. And it can be actually put it as you wish to put it and customize as you wish. From the credit analyst, the credit manager, that can be the financial director. And definitely I fully agree that is what we need the most as credit manager. All good?
Thank you.
No worries. So from number to strategy, what we have is the insight, is a feature that our customer likes a lot. It's common things that we give to all our customers that will tell you, okay, it's great to have scenario. It's great to be able to send email, interactive, automated. But if your customer master data is not up to date, in a sense, you don't have an email, well, your email will go nowhere. Our insight, for example, give you and will tell you, okay, for that many customers, you don't have a contact to be able to send an email. So, which means straight away, the credit manager and their team, whoever, can just take action on that and say, okay, we're going to ensure that what we have has information, we have everything in it to be able to do our cash collection on a day-to-day basis in the best manner possible. You have various pop-up in the insight. There can be some inconsistency in the data, an invoice that's negative, that's weird. how long that someone has not been logging in, the overdue that has not been chased up. So the insight is definitely great to pilot your performance, the data you have, how relevant they are for you to be at the best and in the best condition to do your job. The analytics and reporting, usually that's what I used to miss in some of my companies, because I have to pull, and I'm pretty sure some of you have the same issue, you have to pull a report from Oracle, for example, a aging balance, a sales report from another report, and have to compile all that. It's not always the best because you spend time on Excel. You might end up spending 4 hours just trying to do reporting and trying to do the all analysis. MyDSO offer you all that in real time, and you can download it, you can take a screenshot, you can basically filter it down to your cash collector, to your dispute, to your DSO, to a group of customer, for example, VIP customer big groups, to see where your money sits. Why is that group having so much overdue, so much dispute? Can we do something about that? So in terms of reporting, you have everything, and you can move aside from spending 4 hours just compiling Excel file. And I'm going to go for the search and assign before forecasting. Search and assign is artificial intelligence that helps you to basically say, okay, I have that customer, it's great, I'll do a search, but it becoming risky, I might actually allocate it automatically to a riskier action scenario. It helps you to pilot and just tell MyDSO, I have that case scenario, I'm going to put it directly into that cash collection scenario. You can decide that all the new customer will go to that cash collector. It helps you to automate some of the action that you can do manually. And as I said, we're moving away from quantity to more adding value action and concentrate on where we should concentrate, meaning getting the cash in, and all those little action will be handled by the search and assign. And all of those will help you having the forecast, because if you have the right cash collection scenario, it will help you to get the cash better. And with all those information we get from MyDSO, you can have a look of what's coming towards you. Okay, we all have objective in terms of cash, and we all know that at the end of the day, we need to get the cash in. But how do you do it? Well, we have a functionality where you can see how much sales, what's the due coming in terms of invoices, where your overdue sits, and you can just decide what line and what direction you're going to give to your team and say, okay, guys, that invoice is great. It's overdue by 60 days, but we still need to get that cash in. But our biggest cash sits with those customers, and that's where we're going to get our objective achieved. So that forecasting functionality helps a lot to pilot your results and how you want things to be done, and see if what you have put down as a cash collection scenario, what you've done with your teams, actually get to the result you should get. It's not moving anymore. Being an issue. Is that the last slide?
No, I don't think so.
That's the last slide, yeah?
Check. No, it's not the last slide.
Yeah, but it's not moving anymore.
Maybe if you will share it again.
Okay, just bear with me. I have a little technical issue.
Should we launch
Sorry.
the second poll in the meantime while you guys figure it out?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good idea.
Sorry about that.
You should be able to see the second poll question now.
Yeah, I'm saying that you were on my.
Yeah, but it's, there you go. Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that little issue. Is that full screen? Okay.
Answers are still flowing in for the poll question, so we'll just give it a couple more seconds.
Yeah, no, go ahead. Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to close the poll now and show you the results. So the winner is lack of real-time data and visibility noise.
Excellent. What we'd like to talk about now is, obviously, I just mentioned about artificial intelligence. I mean, an awful lot of people put whatever definition they have of artificial intelligence. Loads of companies put that in front. Why? Because it's a trendy thing to have and it's great publicity. But what is really behind it? When I mentioned about search and assign, what we have decided to go to a higher level when we talk about artificial intelligence, we call that Maya, and it helps the credit management. The credit manager on the day-to-day basis. Basically, it's the whole idea, because MyDSO exists now for 10 years, is to use all those data that we have. We have a little chat box. It helps our customer. They can put a question and it will dig into all the feedback that we got from our customer to help credit manager or their teams or any person that you give access to MyDSO to respond in the best manner. Before actually giving that to our customer, we've tested it internally to ensure that it did make sense. And Maya, and as I said, we go further. I mentioned about interactive email. Now the whole idea is customers send us information. What do we do about that? So the whole idea is to take all those information from an email, get that back into MyDSO and help credit management and their team, because you have the information straight away on MyDSO. You can qualify the invoice. We can have the feedback straight on the tool from the customer, and the credit manager can have a look into it and said, okay, are we going to add all those comments, all those information into MyDSO in such a way that MyDSO will decide, okay, I'm going to open up a dispute because that's what the customers has put as comment, promise of payment. It will qualify as a promise of payment. And the whole idea of Maya, and that's why we just launched it, was to say, okay, what can credit managers and their team could do with AI, and what can AI help their credit managers and MyDSO to help them to go to the next level. And as I said, quantity, now we go to adding value and quality. And that's what Maya does. Email back, qualification automatically, which means credit manager and the team gain time and they can be more concentrate on where can I get money, how accurate is my data. And that is what we wanted to give to our customer with Maya, because it didn't make sense to use artificial intelligence, but the reflection we have was how were we going to do it in the most accurate way and to give information back to all our customers, but that really helps them and that makes sense. So that's why it was a whole thought about how can artificial intelligence can help our end customers with all those data coming from their customers and put within my DSO to help the day-to-day work. So as I mentioned, that little chat box, you can put any question. How do I change a cash collection scenario? How do I change a cash collector to a different portfolio? So it will give you an answer. I mean, we have a support team, they're doing a great job, but sometimes you don't have the time to give a call. You need the response straight away. So that's what we did with the chat box. And as I said, we tested it. We didn't just release the chat box. We wanted to ensure that it did make sense in terms of answers. So, and as I mentioned with Maya, is driven credit strategy. Because at the end of the day, I mean, things are moving. In my previous industry, it was an industry that was not risky. Now it's becoming risky with, I'll say, private clinics. And how does my DSO can help me to actually handle my strategy? And with Maya, because we can say, okay, I have the information, the financial information of my customer. They went from A to a C. What do I do about that? It helps managing the credit strategy, and just with a pop-up with reports, credit manager can say, okay, what do I do? That's getting risky. What action am I going to take about that? How I'm going to make sure that we get paid and we don't end up with bankruptcy. So that's what Maya helps, and it becomes a co-pilot to a credit manager and their teams, because not only is it available to credit managers, but it's available to the cash collection team as well, because they can help to co-pilot. Because as credit manager, we're only human, and from time to time, there's certain things we don't see. So the whole credit management community can see and have access to all those data, and we can all help us out to manage better our credit risk. And the digital, I might need your help, Mark, on this one.
I'll take this because it fits nicely what you've been saying, Noy, and thank you. Thank you for the presentation so far. It was interesting actually. There was quite a few in the voting questions. There was a couple of things that came up I found was very interesting, and I'll touch on those in a second. What I thought was interesting to add here, because I know in conversations we've had with Noy and Yalda and other people that have joined us this morning, is that the success of all these implementations largely depends on the skill sets of the people operating. And it was interesting to note, I say in the voting questions, that in the first one, 22% of you said that you wanted more training in different aspects of credit O2C. And then in the second one, 17% of you identified there was a skills gap as a blocker to, sort of having highly effective credit O2C functions. So that's 1 in 5 in each of those votes. 1 in 5 of you have said there's a skills gap. You've identified it. And these slides here, I think, will kind of emphasize it. This first one here, this is based on an ABSL survey, the Association of Business Service Leaders. It's fairly recent. And this is showing what the SSC leaders, what they're aspiring for within their shared service centres. On the left-hand side, it's obviously saying they all want to accelerate digital transformation, want to reduce operational costs and increase automation through the business and technology processes. And the interesting bit for us in Callisto is that in the middle section, 64% of shared service center leaders plan to have a talent upgrade or upskill their people, develop competency models, execute gap analysis, and plan talent acquisition, and so on. And this is interesting because this really comes out, talking frankly, as a consequence of shared services being seen as a low cost, basically cost saving centers in the past. And now, because the world has changed rapidly in this decade, all these aspirations are really what should have been happening in the past. But nevertheless, we're there now. And it's good that companies are recognizing that there are these skill gaps. And then on the right hand side, they're looking to have more customer centric service delivery models. So basically, through having increasing people's skill sets, this increases the ability to communicate and so on with stakeholders, customers, and so on, because you're establishing this end-to-end process ownership, as it says down the bottom right-hand corner, which this is actually the bedrock of all success in credit, accounts payable, any aspect of finance in a business. Everybody, irrespective of their grade, their length of experience, their job role, everybody really needs to understand where they fit into the business. You mentioned right at the beginning, Noy, about the silo approach and so on, and that has to go, right? If anybody's still working in silos, and I know many companies still are, the key to success is, the idea of a shared service center is to share best practice across the whole thing, not just Germany does what Germany does and France does what France does and the UK what the UK does. The idea is this has to be a global, holistic view. So if you're working with my DSO manager, the idea is that you can see, the objective is that you can see everything that's happening within Europe or the world and so on, and not just in little pockets of the business. If you can go on to the next slide, please, Noy, which this follows on from the previous one, and I find this I found this fascinating, and I show this a lot in our presentations, because this really emphasizes the skills gap. Now, I'd invite everybody to take a look at this slide, look at all the, because what it's saying is what shared service centers are offering their staff, right? All the different trainings they're offering. And I'd like you to take a minute, please, to take a look at this, look at each aspect on the left-hand side, and in the chat, please say, what do you think is missing? Right? If we're talking about credit control, we're talking about accounts payable and other aspects of, the main pillars of working capital. If you look down where the emphasis, where the budget is, where the spend's going, tell me if anybody can see any areas that could be changed in this this graphic. And please feel free to put it on the chat, right? I love it to see what your comments, your opinions are. Or do you think this is okay, right? Do you think this is adequate for what businesses want? So I'm just going to leave it for 20 seconds or so. Please take a look and let us know if you think anything is missing in there. Meantime, I'll have a cup of tea and wait. So anybody have an opinion on the chat? What do you think is missing from these training solutions? Due diligence, yeah, yes, and that's a critical part of credit risk now, very much so. Credit risk is far more than just looking at a balance sheet and doing a few ratios. So yeah, due diligence, absolutely. And that fits again what I was saying earlier, Vincenzo, and understanding end-to-end business. What do we really mean by due diligence? What's its impact? Yeah, Velga, absolutely right. Business understanding, full cycle of cash flow. And yes, when you and these are very much leaning towards where I wanted to go with the answers. And thank you for those. When you look at this chart, and you look at the financial section, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4 from the bottom, you can see there's SEMA, CIA, ACCA, CFA, GARP, IFRS. These are all good things. These are all fantastic organizations, but none of them are directly focused on credit order to cash. Right? There is nothing. There are quite a few service providers that provide training, including Callisto Grand. I make no bones about it, but there is no emphasis there on training credit control people, right? And that's the point I wanted to get to, right? We're looking at pretty much anything and everything apart from specific training for our profession. And most of these other things, soft skills, managerial trainings, project management, computer and internet technology, RPA, um, all of these things, the bedrock of understanding and being able to take these training courses is you have to understand the basics of credit O2C first, right? You can't go off and write a macro for credit if you don't know what it is you're writing it for. You can't be a digital scientist and so on, right? And and I know with my DSO manager, they're very keen on training and developing people as well. It's one of their passions too. So here's the skills gap. So referring to the previous slide of all the aspirations and and then showing what's being offered, we're still going to have the same problem in our profession. And let's not lose sight that trade receivables is the single biggest asset on most companies' balance sheets these days. Right? This is the most important asset in every company. It's the biggest, it's the most volatile, it's the most unpredictable, but it's the most important. Yeah, I'll emphasize again, there is no, in this survey, there is no companies thinking, oh, we really must upskill our credit O2C teams. So that's why I wanted to bring these into the presentation. And please give us your comments. What do you think? Agree or disagree? We'd love to hear what your views are. But I say there's no all these things that are here are all absolutely spot on, but I think we have to have more of the fundamentals before you can get to the soft skills and the computer program learning and so on and so on and so on, right? So, okay, Noi, I think we have one more slide, or yeah, just your final takeaway, and then we'll go into the Q&A. All right, so I have many questions for you.
So just to let you know, if you're our customers, if you go to on our website, we do actually ask for our feedback from our customer, how MyDSO has helped them, how easy it was to implement, any feedback, because we feed ourselves from feedback from our customer. What can we do better? And that is what we will always do, because you can have an idea, but having the feedback and to know what you could do better, it's great to have fantastic feedback from our customers, but it's better if you do something out of it and you improve the tool to actually give more functionality to our customer and help them to on their day-to-day job. So you have a few examples: Rexel, Metso, Schneider, Aéroport de Paris. If you've ever been to Paris, they've managed the airport in Paris. So I invite you to just check out all the testimony that we've got from our customer. Is just real-time experience and what they really do think about MyDSO and the tool. So if you have any question.
Indeed. I'm just replying to Thomas, who was making a good comment that one more training, how to interpret MI and convert findings to actions. I must admit, I was just, I was asking what MI was. Management information. Yes. So the question is how to interpret management information and convert findings to actions. I think that's a great point, isn't it? Because you can have all these dashboards and all this information, and then how do we communicate that with the people we want to communicate it with, the sales teams, business unit managers, and so on. Yeah. So from your experience, Noy, because you've obviously been now both sides of the fence. You've been an operational credit manager. Now you're on project side. When you draw on your experience and you're doing project implementations with your clients, how do you kind of drive that point? Right, we can give you all this stuff. We're going to gather all this fantastic information. Yeah. What's your kind of best tip to make the best value of that? Yeah. Which reports to whom, frequency, that kind of thing.
Well, first thing first, it comes down to the previous slide where you have all those soft skills and certain things, and we mentioned about due diligence. Get to know the industry you're in. If you don't understand, speak to the people that are on the field, that know the customers. Usually tends to be the sales community. And from my previous company, what I used to do in all the companies I worked for was to understand where they were coming from, what was the issue, and how can we adapt it? Because certain strategy, what you're going to put against it might be different from one industry to the others. I've been in car part manufacturer. I worked for sticky label, which is very highly risky industry. I work in the aerospace, which is absolutely not risky when we're talking about, for example, the like of Airbus. They pay really well. And my previous company was in medical disposal. And the industry has shifted. As I said, it wasn't risky, it become more and more risky. So all those tools that we have, the search and assign, Maya, if you know, and that's what I ask our customers when we do implementation, is to understand their business, the level of risk, so that when we implement it, there's certain functionality that can be useful. So we just said, okay, in that respect, maybe you should do that with the search and assign and use Maya for that, because you're in highly risky industry. So coming from different background, knowing how important it is to know your customers, know what's happening on the field, helped me. And with the tool, and my team has project manager, because they're former credit management coming from different industry as well, help them to identify what will be best in terms of setup for our customer, and said, okay, that will be absolutely fantastic for you. That might not be. Why? Because you're not in a risky industry. So it's really asking the right question to our customers, so to know how we adapt the tool to their needs and their industry and the people they want them to have access to MyDSO. So that can be the sales team, that can be customer services. So that's the approach we have here.
You made a good point there, and that kind of overlaps with what Brad said here as well about collaboration with all stakeholders, so sales, business units, and so on, and kind of staying with that. And from the credit side, it's important that they understand why this is important, right? I said earlier it's our biggest asset, and so on. But the consequences of either what we do successfully or not successfully. For example, one of the things we ask in our training courses that we do, one of the first things we ask people is, do they know the profit margin on their company? And it's interesting consistently that most people say they don't know. Right now, our principal role in what we do in credit and collections, risk, cash application, wherever we are in our profession, is to protect the profit margin. And our contribution to protecting the profit margin is getting paid on time. So all the data and all the information, all the dashboards and so on are all critical information to identify the areas that we focus on to achieve that objective, right? So, and that's okay, going back to the fundamentals and what Brad was saying, the executives expect like some kind of magic, 25% ROI in no time at all. No technology is a magic is a magic wand, is it? No, it needs people to actually know what to do with it and to make it happen, right? You can't just plonk in my DSO manager and say, oh, in 6 months' time, all my disputes and all my overdues are going to go away. It's not the credit control fairy. That's, but it helps to identify the areas where we focus on, right? And captures big data quickly. And that's, so I think the point Brad's making is that a lot of projects are not as successful as they can be because the executives don't actually know where they are at this moment in time, right? They don't know where they're starting and what they consider success to be, right? And that's why I was asking you earlier, what advice do you give? And that's great advice that you said. All the things you said are absolutely, it's critical stuff for project success, right? So yeah, going on then and looking at it from your point of view, um, what is the kind of the trends at the moment? Why are people coming to my DSO manager and say we want to know more about you, we want to work with you because, right? What is sort of the catalyst that are driving people to come to you?
First thing is usually having everything in one tool. What I mean by that is the reporting. We mentioned about the dashboard, that visibility on all those different areas as credit manager we should have look at. DSO, overdue, disputes, aging balance. And as I mentioned before, we all end up having to pull all those Excel files, compile it, and it will be what it was, I don't know, 2 weeks ago when you send out the reporting, but you don't have the actual picture today. My DSO all for that. And that helps them having the overview of what needs to be done and what area we could improve and the agility of the tool. We handle any ERP easy. We don't ask our customers, say, okay, can column A be in column A, B in B? No, we have a look at the data, we import it. If they want customized fields, we can take it, and then they can handle the analysis, be really thin in the way they want to do their analysis as per cost control, profit. They can do it by division, business unit, agency, and that helps them. You have the big overview, but you can actually filter it down to the customer, to the type of business unit, to the cost center, and all of those, they have it straight in my DSO, which they didn't. And that's what our customer, some of them have used the tool before, they move on to a new company and ask us to do a demo and they want to implement it. And the others, because they have that global view that usually you don't, they say, okay, well, we're just going to go for it. You're very agile, very flexible, easy to implement. And that's what push our customer to come and see us implement the tool. And the most important thing, they stay with us.
Well, right. And I guess the driver of all of that, you were saying about having this holistic view and everything else. Sounds like the catalyst for that really was this rapid increase in interest rates. All of a sudden,
Yeah.
everybody now realizes, as should always have been the case, that to borrow money just because you haven't got your receivables paid is now blooming expensive, right? Whereas in the previous decade it wasn't, with zero interest rates and so on. And that's how it should always be. You were saying just then about the flexibility and agility, and right at the very beginning you were talking about multiple ERPs and that sort of in-house complexity. One of the things we hear a lot, or one of the things we try and advise against, is so many companies are saying things like, well, we're doing the S4 HANA upgrade now, so we'll talk to you in 2028 about our receivables management. We always say that absolutely should not be the case. S4 HANA or anything like that should not be a showstopper when it comes to contacting you guys, right? Would you agree with that?
Yeah, definitely. At the end of the day, can be as great of a tool, but it's not because you moved to that ERP that you should put aside your account receivable. As you mentioned, Mark, cash is the most important. Receivable is the most important, how we get the cash in. And I do believe as credit manager, we are so important within the organization because our job is one of the most complex and complicated, and we don't always have the right tool.
Yeah. Yeah. And sorry, carry on.
Yeah. And what's important is how do we get the right tool to be able to pilot our performance in the best manner. And moving from one ERP to the other, there can be SAP HANA, and I know because there's always talk about that. No, AR, account receivable, is the most important thing, how you pilot that performance. And as they always say, my boss used to tell me that cash is king. And even more so now with the financial difficulty, the rate that's not going down, and the money costs more and more. So we become the community within an organization that is extremely important.
Absolutely. And also you throw in the geopolitical uncertainties as well, which are coming more and more, sadly, it seems like every day. Um, Cash is absolutely king. Yes, and data is queen, as Vincenzo said very nicely here. Some cracking points come up on the chat here. We're saying about the dashboards, that to include DPO, DIO, so you got the full cash flow cycle. And predictive analytics, as was also mentioned as well. Predictive analytics are not complicated. They don't have to be complicated. It's something we talk about in Callisto a fair bit. You just need to know which bits to pull together, right? The S4 HANA and also the multiple ERPs as well, where you can have different instances of SAP or Oracle and so on. If you've gone through an M&A, these are also not showstoppers either. And I think this really needs kind of a huge mindset shift, doesn't it? That you can combine your ERP systems and that can take 10 years. That's fine, but that shouldn't stop sort of working with my DSO manager to get our real-time data together. And another question I kind of pinged it on the message board earlier also was, I know it changes for every company, but roughly what's your sort of from inquiry to implementation or go live time? What's a typical average time?
It depends on the size of the company as well, and usually the availability of IT, because we always come back to IT as well when we talk about ERP. That can go from 20 days to 2 or 3 months because customers might want just one entity after the others. Why? Because it's different ERP, and obviously they might not have the same IT people pulling the data. Because sometimes if you use SAP, you don't have import files. So obviously IT needs to build those import files. You want to do testing because for us, what's important is the data, how they reflect the accounting of our customers. And that is the most important thing. So we have all different sorts. You can go, as I say, to 20 days to a few months. It's really, we adapt to the customers. We have basically a planning and said, okay, we're going to go from one milestone to the other. So it's something we set up with the customer when we do a kickoff meeting and how they like and they want to do things as well. So we extremely adaptable. It can be super quick. It can take slightly longer because IT is not available. They are on different projects. So there's no, I'll say, real
But even so,
answers.
the fact that you're talking about sort of 3 months was the longest period you said. Then, of course, it depends on IT support and so on. But it's interesting that the days of the sort of the 2-year implementation are largely numbered. I would hazard, yeah. And another thing I wanted to ask, as we're getting near the end now, the flex the is it the operators that can actually change and implement what it is they want? So they can do most of the actions themselves, setting up new reports, new parameters, new strategies. Can this be led largely by, say, the staff themselves rather than having to come to you guys?
Yeah, basically, when we offer the training, we help them to have a look at all the different reports, how they want to customize it. So it's all throughout the training session, and obviously we do follow up training session if necessary, follow up meetings with our customer just to double check everything is fine. We present them the new functionality. We have newsletter. We have online help. So that our customer always know what new functionality we have, how to use it, and when they need, they can give us a call and we can go through different functionality. But it's all been handled in the training, because for us training is super important so that they can handle the tool and happy to use it, because the best training you have, the more likely you're going to be able to use the tool and like the tool and said, okay, it makes my life easier on a day-to-day basis.
Great. Okay. We another hour has whizzed by. We're down to our last couple of minutes. So I think if you could just pop on to the last slide, please. So just before we wrap up, again, anybody have anything else they'd like to ask or add? Any other questions? So we've got like about a minute and a half left. So as we're wrapping up then, first of all, everybody, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been a pleasure hosting you. Noi, that was a cracking presentation. It's fascinating stuff. I think you encourage a lot of people. I hope will come and contact you in the next few days and get to know more about My DSO Manager. As it says here on the screen, please follow Callisto on LinkedIn for future events. Also, of course, My DSO Manager. Get in touch with Noi and Yauda for anything else you'd like to follow up on. And also, we're delighted to be able to say that you can meet the My DSO team at our conference, Credit Matters 14, which is in Budapest in October the 9th and 10th. And we'd love to see you all there. So if you haven't registered yet, please get in touch, come and join us. Again, thanks very much. We are back again in 1 week's time for another session, so check out LinkedIn for that. In the meantime, Noi, Yauda, Esther, I know you've all worked ferociously hard behind the scenes as well. Everybody, thanks for coming. See you again very soon. Take care, stay safe, and God bless. See you soon.